American families, failing schools, economic collapse. America needs a cure. The Center for Urban Renewal and Education presents Star Parker's Cure for America.
I'm interviewing today Congressman Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan is a congressman from a very small district in Wisconsin, believe it or not. And he's got a very powerful position here in Washington, D.C., where he's chairman of the House Budget Committee. And this matters to us because he's bringing discipline back to Washington. He's been talking about ideas that are aggressive, according to some, but necessary, according to others, when it comes to the fundamental changes that must occur in our country today. Congressman Ryan has brought forth a specific plan here in Washington, D.C. that will fundamentally change Washington and change the way Americans view their own lives. He calls it the path to prosperity. And I want to get into what exactly that means, not just for what needs to occur in Washington when it comes to budget and debts, but also what it means for you and your family, your children and your grandchildren. In a speech that Florida's Senator Marco Rubio gave recently at the Reagan Library, he said that both parties, Republicans and Democrats, share responsibility for the growth of government in our country in the last century. Senator Rubio said that the focus of government programs was doomed from the start because the strength of our nation begins with its people, and that these programs actually have weakened us as a people. Do you agree with him that the growth of government has weakened us as a people?
Marco and I see eye to eye on a lot of these issues, and we've talked about this quite a bit this year. Number one, these programs are going bankrupt, and they're bankrupting our country, which means we're going to have a diminished future if we don't get these things turned around. Number two, we want to make sure that these programs are working in a way that make people more independent and more on their own 2 feet. And so if you take a look at what we need to do to reform government, stop this mountain of debt from crushing our society, the vision we have is to have an opportunity society with a sound safety net.
Okay.
We don't want to have a welfare state that lulls able-bodied people into lives of complacency and dependency and drains them of their own will and incentive to make the most of their lives.
Right. Your party, the Republican Party, has had a big problem with minorities, particularly blacks. And although they constitute some 12% of the population, they are some 30% of Medicaid, a program you're proposing to change. According to AARP, 2 in 5 retired black households have Social Security as their only income source. What hope do you have in getting this message into these communities?
Think about what the current law says. It says when we run out of IOUs to the Social Security Trust Fund, those people who get only Social Security benefits, they get a 21% cut right away.
Wow.
That's wrong. That's coming in current law. We want to prevent that from happening.
And how soon is that coming in current
2036 is when it's currently estimated to happen. That's when boomers
So it's going to automatically happen either way.
That's the law right now. So that's when boomers are in
My
the prime
goodness.
of their retirement.
Wow.
Number two, shouldn't we give people the right and the chance to make sure that this Social Security benefit is their private property that they own? It's a nest egg that they can control, they can grow it faster, and then they can leave something on to their children if they pass away. Look, my dad died when I was a kid. And Social Security benefits were really helpful to me. They helped me pay for college. They helped my mom go back to school to learn a new trade, to start a small business. The program was there when we needed it. And I want to make sure this program is there for people when they need it, but also let's make sure that the program is something that you truly can count on, that is a part of your private property instead of some promise by a politician.
How do you move a culture from dependency, government promises, to a culture that actually believes in freedom and personal responsibility?
By having a growing economy and an opportunity society. The great thing about the American system of free enterprise and opportunity is we have to keep perfecting it. And that means we need to get prosperity and opportunity into those pockets of America that haven't seen it yet.
They've never seen it, exactly.
And so when we advocate policies in Washington that encourage more people to become more dependent upon others or the government for their livelihoods, we're draining them of opportunity, of the incentive to make the most of their lives. Right. And that's not good for society. That's not good for our culture. And more to the point is it bankrupts our society.
Right. You know, I agree with you that we're at a critical crossroads in this country. In fact, I have said many times it's similar to in the 1850s when Abraham Lincoln said, we just can't go on like this anymore. We can't be half free and half slave. But we've got to sell this message. It's got to resonate into the communities that it matters to most. Where is the plan? How do we do this?
You know who I usually work with? I usually work with the pastors.
Right.
The pastors in the churches, the ones who I work with, to talk to them about getting charities up and funded to help getting people back on their feet. At the end of the day, the culture is what matters most. And I personally believe the culture of moral relativism has been the poor foundation upon which a lot of these problems rest. Right. But what government can do is not do more harm to the problem. Right. What government can do is remove the barriers so that individuals can rebuild their communities and can bring opportunity so that people can actually pull themselves up out of these pockets of poverty and onto lives of self-sufficiency and flourishing happiness.
We used to be a nation, as Rubio pointed out in his speech, where parents raised and cared for their children, and then children cared for their aging parents. It seems to me that this breakdown of traditional family life is a sign of the weakening of us as a people, as we started the interview talking about, and this has driven up government dependency, as we know. You're a family man, you're a traditional man. Where do we go from here? Can we recover our culture?
I grew up in that traditional system. When my grandmother got Alzheimer's, she moved in with my mom and myself. We took care of her. That's the system I grew up in. That's the town, and that wasn't too long ago.
No,
I'm 41 years old.
Can we recover? Can we get there
absolutely.
Again?
Yeah, we can recover. I think we can recover by bringing these cultural antibodies back in. Let's go with what we have found has worked, and that means getting rid of this notion that people should have more net dependency on the government. Right now, according to the Tax Foundation, between 60 and 70% of Americans get more benefits from the federal government than they pay back in taxes. So we're getting toward a society where we have a net majority of takers versus makers who, if that trend continues, then we'll have a European situation on our hands.
Final question. Liberals attack you. They say you're just trying to destroy the social
That's
safety net.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, and people hear this and they get scared.
Yeah, people actually believe some of that stuff.
They really do. But you know what? The Wall Street Journal just recently said that you said that if you want to be good at this kind of job, you have to be willing to lose it. Are you still willing to lose it? Then you said the times require this. This is unusual Washington speak.
Look, our kids are 6, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. I know without a shred of doubt that their future is going to be worse than what my parents handed to me if we don't get this thing fixed. And so you can't come up here worrying about your political career. You got to come up here worrying about your country and where it's going, and you have to be willing to risk those things if you want to be good at these jobs. I fundamentally believe that. The choices we will make in the next 2 to 5 years, Star, because of just the way the economics are going, that will determine the kind of people we're going to be and the kind of country we're going to be for the 21st century. I want us to be a society where our kids have it better than we do, and where people who've never seen opportunity before will see opportunity. You don't get that with a heavy-handed government. You don't get that with a society of people becoming net dependent. You get that with a society of opportunity, with a society of individual achievement, and that's something that I think we can still achieve.
I agree with you. Yes and amen. After wandering in the wilderness and welfare for many years, I pulled it together. My daughter now is married and has my 5.5-year-old grandson.
That's awesome.
So I'm hoping that you will be able to be successful for his sake. So
hey, look,
really
Winston Churchill said the Americans can be kind of bound to do the right thing only after they've exhausted all other possibilities. And I think we're getting close to the we're right there.
Well, we appreciate you being here for all of us. Thank you so much. And